Let's roll, baby. It is 2:06 here on this Friday morning, 4-hour edition of JJ After Dark. That's right, John Jastrzemski in for the Moose, guiding you through the overnight right here on the Fan. 877-337-6666, two-way number to get in touch with the busy show. Full cast of characters back there on the other side of the glass. You have the Jedi Master, Russell Mathis, of course. You have Anthony Gallo and a mysterious Ernie Acosta. Yes, man who never sleeps across the way on the other side. You have the maestro Harris Allen with the updates every 20 minutes. We are with you up until 6 o'clock, and then it will be the Moose, Mark Malusis, and Maggie Gray in for Boomer and Carton, the Fan, right here in New York City. Trust me, we will get to the preseason opener for the New York Jets. It was not pretty against the Detroit Lions. We will get into one of the most bizarre scenarios you will ever see with Geno Smith being sucker punched a couple of days ago. I have not been on the air since that incident took place, so I have a few thoughts that I'd like to throw out there for you. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but it's a big-time baseball Friday. It's a big-time baseball weekend here in New York. We'll begin with the Yankees, then get to the Mets. The Yankees went into Thursday night in dire need of a win. You lose 5 in a row. You get swept last weekend by the Toronto Blue Jays. You know that you have the Toronto Blue Jays coming up 3 games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, north of the border at the Rogers Center. You need to win that baseball game on Thursday in the absolute worst way. You do not want to go and play a surging Toronto Blue Jays baseball team hitting the skids here, loses a 6 in a row, when Toronto's going to be going in winners of 11 in a row. And thankfully, the Yankees on Thursday evening were able to go out there and give you a much-needed victory. Wasn't pretty. It's not one you're going to put on the highlight reel here in 2015, but who the hell cares? You take it any which way you can if you're the New York Yankees. With your offense scuffling, you can't hit a lick over the last week and change. You have a couple of runners on base early on in this game. You needed a big hit out of Brian McCann. And that home run from McCann in the first inning, a 3-run shot, just what the doctor ordered for the Yankees. They needed that sort of boost. And McCann's able to pick him up. He's been scuffling as of late. The entire team has been scuffling between Ellsbury and Gardner and Alex Rodriguez and Mark Teixeira. A lineup that was so good, that was so dominant at times throughout 2015. It's been awful as of late. Absolutely awful. So you needed that sort of boost there in the first inning. McCann is able to give it to you. You get a good game out of Stephen Drew as he's able to homer. And to me, the biggest takeaway from the Yankees offensively here on Thursday is that Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury finally here started to show you some signs of life with the bat. I've been listening the last couple of days. I've been watching the Yankees the last couple of days. It's been painful to watch Jacoby Ellsbury lead off games for the New York Yankees. You need to get Ellsbury back on track here. You need to get Brett Gardner, the all-star, back on track. That's one thing you'll say about Brett Gardner. As much as I love the guy, and I do, I'm a big Brett Gardner fan. He's my favorite player on this team. You look at the last couple of years, Brett Gardner has been a non-factor for the Yankees in the second half. That cannot continue to be the case here in 2015 if this team is going to go out there and win a division title and if they're going to go out there and get to the postseason. They need those two guys at the top of the order to wreak havoc. They need them on base. They need them moving on the bases. And you need A-Rod and Teixeira driving them in. On Thursday, Ellsbury on base a ton. Multi-hit game. Gardner, his best game since the first half of the season. He's on base a ton. And the offense is able to go out there and give you the sort of performance that has you feeling a little bit better about this Yankee team as they will now face their toughest test of the 2015 season because they are walking into what is going to be an absolute buzzsaw north of the border in Toronto Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We talked about this last weekend, that they already sold out the games 3 straight in Toronto. That fan base, that city, they've been dying for a winner. They finally have one. The Blue Jays are legitimate. The Blue Jays are the real deal. They have been pummeling teams, embarrassing teams over the last 2 weeks. They have a totally different dynamic since they went out there and brought in Troy Tulowitzki and since they brought in David Price. Now they have the ace at the top of the rotation. You know the lineup likes to mash. The Yankee pitching better be ready for an onslaught because those Blue Jays bats, when they're hitting up in that Rogers Center, they punish you. It is not pretty. I don't expect the Blue Jays to be held to, 10 runs over 3 games? Don't expect that to be the case. If you're the Yankees, you better know going into this series, you got to score some runs. And I know you're going to be dealing with David Price on Friday, and I know David Price dominated the Yankees last Saturday. But you got to get the bats going. Saturday and Sunday, the pitching matchups, advantageous for the Yankees. I know they lost the game last weekend, Tanaka Estrada. You cannot lose to Marco Estrada twice. I'm sorry. Cannot lose to Marco Estrada twice. You want to win the American League East, you cannot lose to Marco Estrada twice. And then it's Hutchinson on Sunday, a guy who is mediocre, a guy who should be ready-made to order for the Yankee bats against Severino. And Severino's going to have his hands full against that Blue Jays lineup. And that will be a very interesting test for him to see if he's up for the challenge. He's the Yankees phenom. He's pitched very well in his first 2 starts. Now we'll see what he could do against the big bad Blue Jays. But for those of you waiting for the Blue Jays to cool off, and you were thinking, all right, Toronto sweeps the Yankees 3 straight. Oakland's not any good, but maybe they look at it as a bit of a letdown. Not the case. Because the Blue Jays pummeled the A's every single game of that series. And you know that they are licking their chops, waiting for this reeling Yankees team to come to town. The last thing you wanted, if you were a Yankee fan, is to go in Toronto, losers of 6 straight, 7 out of 8, and be dealing with the prospect of facing that team. They're a half game out of first place. You're looking at about a month and a half left of baseball here. You need to stem the tide. You need to silence the momentum that the Blue Jays have garnered here over the last month. Going out there and winning 2 out of 3 would do exactly that. The Yankees failed miserably in their 3-game series last week at Yankee Stadium against this Blue Jays team. They were not ready for prime time. The Blue Jays were ready to go. They hit the big home run. They got the big out. Their bullpen did the job. Now the Yankees have to do the polar opposite, essentially, of what you saw last weekend. You need well-pitched games, and you need to swing the bats. Hopefully, from a Yankees side of things here, Thursday night's game and Thursday night's offensive explosion will propel them into the weekend. They needed this sort of game to feel good about themselves. Now, they'll have to take that momentum up against one of the best pitchers in baseball. It's going to be a fascinating series. And I told you last weekend, you're going to learn a lot about both of these teams. And the Blue Jays, it's hard not to be impressed. They are steamrolling teams right now. The Yankees season is not over. It is not a lost cause. You're still looking at about 7 weeks of baseball here. But eventually, you got to beat this Blue Jays team. Yankees are 2-7 against Toronto Blue Jays in 2015. That is not going to win you a division title. Yankees want to win the American League East. They better figure out a way to beat the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's a big weekend of baseball from the Yankees side of things here as they get ready for the first place Blue Jays Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then you have the sizzling, surging, red-hot New York Mets. And let's be perfectly frank. The New York Mets, the way they are playing right now, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It is absurd how hot this baseball team is. They can do no wrong. They can do no wrong. And I don't know if it was Joe and Evan listening earlier on Thursday before I played a last round of golf, mentioning you don't hear the Met fan complaining about the Wilpons anymore. You don't hear the Met fan complaining the woe is me, the nonsense we heard over the last month. Because the team is in first place, and now the lead in the NL East is up to 4.5 because the Washington Nationals cannot get out of their own way. The Washington Nationals are looking like one of the biggest groups of underachievers you will ever see. Because that team can't hit a lick. They get a leadoff home run from Escobar on Thursday, and they can't hit Ryan Vogelsong. This is not the Ryan Vogelsong who pitched in the 2012 World Series. It's a mediocre pitcher, and they couldn't touch him. And the Mets firing on all cylinders. Syndergaard, shaky out of the gate. Not vintage Noah Syndergaard early. A couple of weeks ago, this is a game the Mets lose. Not the case anymore because they get the bats going and then some. And they do exactly what you are supposed to do against a bad baseball team. You take care of business. You do not overlook a bad baseball team because they don't come back and bite you in the butt. The Mets took a Colorado team to the woodshed, a Colorado team that beat Washington 2 out of 3. They come into Citi Field, they sweep them 4 straight. 4 straight. Granderson with homers. Johnson with homers. Lagares, his rear end's been on the bench. He gets an opportunity to play. He comes off the bench and hits you a big home run. Everything is going the way of the New York Mets. We know the starting pitching is a given, but now this team is starting to score runs. Believe it or not, and I can't believe I'm saying this because we're talking about the New York Mets and offense in the same sentence. The Mets have the most runs in the National League since July 24th. It's amazing. They call up Conforto. They make the trade for Uribe and Kelly Johnson. They bring in Cespedes. Boom. Voila. It is an entirely different looking Met team. And they have swagger and they have confidence. And you go into each and every game now as a Met fan with the expectation that you're going to win. When is the last time you can say that? It's been a long, long time with this Met team. And they're 4.5 games up on the Washington Nationals. Think about that for a minute. It is August 14th. The Mets, who were trailing the Nationals, 2 weeks ago? Now are sitting here in prime position in the National League East. Still a lot of baseball. They have 6 games left with the Nationals. You still have all of August, all of September to worry about here. But you look at the complexion of this division. I'm not putting the Washington Nationals as a favorite anymore. Absolutely not. With the way the Nationals have played here as of late, and with the way the Mets are surging, the Mets look like the team to beat within this division. They really do. And is that something I honestly expected to say 3 or 4 weeks ago? Not a chance in the world. There is no chance in the world. I expected the Mets to give you this sort of stretch of baseball. Stunning. But it shows you what some competent offensive players can do when you have all-world starting pitching. And the Mets now get ready for what is going to be a very interesting test Friday, Saturday, Sunday against a team that's 20 games over 500, a team that can score, a team that embarrassed the Mets earlier in the year. I remember watching that Pirates-Mets series. It was embarrassing watching the Mets. It's a much different-looking Met team. It's a much different team. That's why it's even tough to compare the Met teams that you saw April, May, and June to the team you're seeing right now. The lineup is entirely different. The swagger is entirely different. And as you head into this weekend set, it's good to be a Met fan. A big weekend of baseball. Looking forward to breaking it down. Want to hear from you. Two-way number to get in touch with JJ After Dark. 877-337-6666. Hopefully the Yankees can use Thursday's performance as a springboard here for what will be a pivotal 3-game set against the Blue Jays Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you're a Met fan, it's very simple. Let the good times roll. 2:20, update time. Here's the Maestro.